get started?
I am.
Okay, I am Katera Chandler and I will be presenting you today. And today we have here, sorry for mispronouncing your name, Artisa Moten. She is a licensed marriage family therapist who combines the principles of neuroscience with traditional counseling techniques. She is the founder of Awakened Counseling Inc. Incorporation, a holistic mental health collective that specializes in neuro counseling. Together with her partner, they co founded Power Move 365, which currently facilitates support groups coupled with body based interventions for youth and families. And in 2001, she started Black Wellness Magazine after seeing the effects of the pandemic on the Black community. From an early age, Artesia May was captivated by the interactive relationship between the mind and body and how it shapes our experiences and overall being on mental health. The, fasc- the fascination led her to pursue a master's degree in counseling with a focus on holistic approaches that integrate the mind, body, and spirit. Realizing how trauma and nutrition impeded her clients' healing journey, she sought to become a certified clinical trauma professional and a certified nutrition and integrative medicine mental health professional to give her clients the best possible outcome. Now she can take the lead and lead us in this session.
Hello, everyone. Hello. Welcome today. You heard my bio. I am really, really excited to be presenting today on neuroscience and the mental health space. I fell into this work um, by divine intervention. I was watching a TED Talk, and it was called 80,000 Scans of Psychology. And he divulged, he said something that stuck with me and just would not leave. He said, we are the only profession, psychologists, mental health professionals, that do not look at the object in what we treat. And I'm like, we do treat the brain and we don't look at it. And it just would not flee from me. Fast forward probably a year later, I get Mr. Head, and this is my cousin had saw this in a thrift shop, and she brought it back to me, and she said, "I don't know, I was in the thrift shop, and it just said get it for you." I was like, "Oh, okay, that's really cool." And I set it in there, and one day it tipped over, and at the bottom of it, it has so many scriptures. So I love my God. I love the Most High. I'm so grateful. And I looked at it, and it says, you're going to do neuroscience. You're going to bring neuroscience into this field. And I'm like, me? Uh-uh. Neuroscience? That sounds like most school, Lord. Help me, Jesus. And, it has been a journey for sure. Coming into this field, merging neuroscience with mental health, and especially in our culture, a lot of times I talk about what I do. The first thing they say, are you going to shock my brain? Are you do electroshock therapy? And I'm like, no, I don't do that. So one of the things that I've learned in bringing to the practice is we have so much adversity within us that's external. How do we manage the strain within us that we have no control over? And the Most High just started working with me and merging neuroscience and showing me the research and training. And I am so grateful to present that today. So we will get started. I'm going to share my screen. Okay. Though I practice this, you guys, bear with me just a tad bit. Here we go. Share screen. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes, I can see it now.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
This morning, I was just looking over the presentation again. And one of the things I thought is the way we are treated in this country is literally killing us slowly. And it's not just a physical death, it's also an emotional death. And we are passing this poison down to our children and generations because we don't know exactly what to do with this everyday strain. And my presentation talked about, okay, why is it not sharing? Next. Okay. I'm sorry, it's not going to the next one. It talked about a comprehensive and integrative approach to healing. And as I was just looking over it, there's no zero destination when it comes to healing. Healing is an ongoing process until our passing. And it's not just our passing of death, but passing on to the next generation, teaching them and training them how to care for themselves. So today we're going to talk about nutrition deficits, integrative practices, resilience and adaptability, what that looks like. One of the things that I wanted to bring up today was a research that was found. And it said, I'm going to read it word for word. In modern human society, an individual is exposed to chronically stressful work, family, and societal environments. The individual perseverates in thinking about the problem, and neither the mind or the body returns to its original state. And this was from the World Health Organization. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I want you guys to put in the chat that word perseverate. Can someone look up that word perseverate and what it actually means? Okay, I'm going to give y'all a moment to write in the chat, to look it up, to see what that looks like. And I want someone to put in the chat, what does perseverate means? We perseverate this perpetual disturbance within us.
I'm not sure if anyone have it for the chat, but I can read it out what I have here.
Go ahead.
All right. It says to repeat or prolong an action, thought, or utterance after the stimulus that promoted it has ceased.
Yes. And when we look at that, it says the individual perseverates in thinking about the problem. Neither the mind or the body returns to original state. Once we receive what the external is giving us, we then dwell on it. How could we not? How could we not dwell on the microaggressions? How could we not feel frustrated? How could we not get angry? How could we not feel like the world is, how could we not? But doing so also don't return us to our resting state. It literally changes the way our DNA is read and transcribed. When I heard Dr. Nadia Burke, she did the ACEs TED Talk. And when she said it changes the way our DNA is read and transcribed, it hit on a whole nother level when that happened. So think about it. Ultimately, racism is a public health issue. We cannot do that on our own. That is a societal thing that we must address through law changes. Okay. We cannot wait for the world to change, though. For some of us, it will be too late. We need to take our health into our own hands. And today, I want to give you an idea what you can do to help you. So I'm going to go back to sharing my screen. And I want to talk about what is healing and breaking it down. So there's this concept that the 5 states of truth. And in the 5 states of truth, there's ignorance, which is the absence of truth. Then there's knowledge, which is the accumulation of truth. And when you're accumulating truth, you know what it is. But then there's understanding, which is the assimilation of truth. That means you know what it means. And then there's wisdom, which is the application of truth, which means you apply it. But there's one more thing of truth is foolishness, the abandonment of truth. That's from Dr. Myron Golden. Think about that. Everybody is ignorant at one point, right? We all don't know, but when we're given that information, we got that knowledge, we gather that knowledge, but then think about it. That's the accumulation of it. We know what it is. We know what it is. But do we have a true understanding? Do we know what that means? Because if we don't know what it means, there's no way we can shift to wisdom and apply it, because we're missing a step. Okay? So when we are in the process of healing, we have to know the 5 truths: ignorance, knowledge, understanding, wisdom, and foolishness. And this morning, I was again looking over the slides, and God said to me, he said, you're talking about comprehensive, right? Can you break down truth to them? And I was like, truth? He's like, yeah, healing, help. I said, okay, Lord, okay, healing. He said, well, how would you study my word? I was like, immediately, Hebrew language. So what Hebrew language is, Hebrew words are not spelled, they're built. So Hebrew language has a foundation on top of each other. And so I went immediately to my Strong Concordance and broke down the word healing in the Hebrew language, which is refaha. And so it means to recover. The first of it is recovery or restoration, returning to a state of well-being and wholeness. And I want you guys to keep in mind too the 5 truths. Okay, the 5 truths. Then the second part is we mouth or expression. We have to speak it. So think about it. First, we're ignorant. We don't know what's going on around us. But then it's brought to our attention. We're brought into this world. And then we have an idea. We have knowledge. We know what it is. We know what's going on. Okay. Then we have connection or joining, which is the va. And this part right here is the connecting or joining with the state of health or balance. And the last part is so very important. While this letter is silent in the word, the significance brings it all together and solidifies it. It's often signifies the concept of oneness or unity. In the context of healing, it can represent the ultimate goal of becoming whole or unified. If we think about healing, we have to build it. And when we're building healing, we have to start within ourselves, so that when the world around us is shaken, we won't be broken. We may be bent, but we cannot be broken because our foundation is solid. Now, I want to go into the first intervention, and this is nutrition. I was sitting in session one day, and I'm looking at my client, and I'm trying to understand what is stopping her from really stepping into her authentic self, stepping into her true power. This woman across from me was so dynamic. And as I was sitting there, the Most High came to me again, and he said, well, what stopped you? What stopped you from stepping into your power? What stopped you from being your true, authentic self? And I was in a session with Brittany, and she talked about toxic positivity. And she mentioned how she got lupus. And I'm like, oh, Lord, you're speaking to me in here. It was so profound that if we look at ACEs, adverse childhood experiences, and the more ACEs that we have, the more health disparities and mental health issues we are exposed to and are at risk. And I was on so much medication that my system stopped. It would not process any more medication. It would not process food. I was dropping down. I'm 5'8", and I was at 120 pounds. I could not process food. I could not drink water. It was really, really bad. And they wanted to solve the problem by giving me more medications, which in the emergency room, they told me the reason is because I'm over medicated, but yet you're giving me more medications. I couldn't understand it. I reached out and said, Lord, what do I need to do? He said, fast. I'm like, well, that shouldn't be hard. I already can't process anything. And in the 7 days of fasting, he revealed to me the dietary law. And I was like, okay, never heard of it. As Christian as I am, and I've heard people say about it, but I've never really took it into account. So I started reading the dietary law. And then as I was sitting with that client in the session of what's stopping her from being her true, authentic self, it says, check her blood work. I'm like, okay. I had her go get her blood work. It came back. I didn't know what to do with that. And the Most High said, well, you need to go to be a nutritionist. Go and get your nutrition certification. Again, he's sending me back to school. And after I finished and was able to compare her nutrition with what was stopping her, something so simple. I'm giving her skills, and yet she could not receive it. She couldn't get the breakthrough. She knew what it is, but she couldn't grasp the meaning of our conversation. Come to find out, she was deficit in vitamin D. Her C reactive protein was low. Her B12 was low. B complex. We took a 24-hour cortisol test. All of this was so out of whack that how could I expect her to understand anything that we was trying to learn and process? So once we got that together and looked at it, and I used this, it's called blood chemistry and CBC analysis. And anytime, every single one of my clients that walk through the door, I have them do lab work. I have them do a comprehensive vitamin blood work and a DNA test so that we can come back, we read it, we break it down. And the reason why this is very, very important. So a concept to look at is we have functional doctors and we have conventional doctors. And the way that works is a conventional doctor will look at your vitamin D and say, oh, it's at 32. Mind you, most of us don't know this. Mind you, 30 is borderline deficit, but it's out of 32. So the doctor is like, oh, you're fine. You're within range per se. But think about it. If you were going to go through a hardship or a deficit, guess what's going to happen? Your body's going to be flooded with cortisol and your vitamin D is going to drop. When it drops and you're already at a 32, now you've dropped to a deficit. But you just went to the doctor like a couple of months ago and your vitamin D, what you were told was fine. But a functional doctor, a nutritionist or a dietitian, well, hey, no. Yeah, we are not deficit, but let's get it between 50 and 70. So that when we go through the stressors of life, it will drop, but we won't drop into a deficit to where it hurts not just our physical health, but our mental health as well. So I'm going to go back to sharing my screen so that we can break down what that looks like with vitamin D. So, brought the wrong one. Here we go. So vitamin D3. And so, okay, let's break that down. We often see vitamin 1, vitamin 2, and vitamin D3. The best nutrient for us is vitamin D3. The difference between the two, vitamin D2 is a plant based. So you may think, oh, plant based, that's good. Well, vitamin D2 is a derivative of plants, and it's for plants. But vitamin D3 is a derivative from like skin cells. And so you would get that from fish and fatty acids. And that's what we need to break down in our human systems. So while vitamin D2 is good, vitamin D3 is more potent and it's more effective within the body. We talk about seasonal affect disorder, which is sad. Depression and anxiety increases during fall and winter months. We know it's a lack of sunlight, right? Think about it. 83% of African Americans are vitamin D deficient, even in summer months. 83% of us. 83% of us. Think about what happens when we start to transition into those winter months. So not only is there a physiological change with that physiological change then transitions over into a mental health change. Then that's where we see, guess what? That mental health rise. Not just because of a holiday, of it may be a significant date, missing our families, going through hardships, stress at work, but physiologically, we drop as well in vitamin D, making it harder for our brain to even function and process. Think about that. Our cognitive function with vitamin D is involved in so many neurological processes that we can account. It's over 300 billion processes just in our brain alone. Mind you, this is a brain, heart, and gut processing that we have to do that our vitamin D works with. Just in our brain alone, in our neurological processes. Okay, so let's look at the immune function. There's a connection between our immune system that we all know and mental health. Vitamin D supports the immune system, and it is an overactive or it imbalances our immune system to help with depression and anxiety, to deal with the microaggressions, to deal with our family and work-life balances. Because think about it, if we look at our Black men who have to go out there and be the heads and have to deal with masculinity, then they are under even more stress. Hey, you guys, look, I'm sorry. I got off topic just a little bit. I'm able now to see my screen and you guys. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Awesome. Can you also see me?
Yes.
Nice. Okay, I like this. I didn't discover this earlier. Okay. Vitamin D is, so one of the things I want to talk about is N equals 1. We all are different because in moderation. When I say N equals 1, understand that our bodies work differently. We all have different health concerns. So it's always good to consult your doctor, your mental health, your primary care physician, to ask them about these things. And if you was to actually go to a doctor and ask them, hey, how's my vitamin D levels? What is that looking like? And you ask them, okay, how can I function at optimal health? They'll give you it. But how many of us know to ask those questions? How many of us know to go in there and be prepared for that? We don't. We're not taught this. If you, and a lot of times we think doctors are nutritionists. There's a reason why you will be sent to a nutritionist or a dietitian. Doctors or MDs have very minimal training in nutrition and dietary supplements and diet. This is why they send you over to a specialist to help you with that, and get your body tailored to what will benefit you. But we have to ask for them. They're not just going to send us to it. So advocating for ourselves is going to be very paramount. Here in, I'm based out in California, Bakersfield, and most doctors here that deals with the client know me now. They know my name only because I send in a list, and me and my client will sit here and we will write up a list of questions. Again, how could I expect you to mentally be in a space and process very traumatic events when your body isn't physically ready for it? I'm just gonna cause more issues within you, and make you have to manage now not just your mental health, but your physical health all in one. So we sit down and we write a very comprehensive list. This is what I want you to ask your doctor. If they ask you this is the follow-up question I want you to ask. They come in with that paper, they're ready to go. And I tell them, before you leave, I want to make sure that you get a review care sent back so we can know what they're doing, what they ordered, and you have an idea of what that looks like. The next one is our magnesium. Okay. You know, during my tech run, y'all, this went so smooth. But you know what? We pivot, because that's what we do. Let's try it again. And we okay with rolling with the punches. So our magnesium. This is such a vital nutrient and supplement that we need to take. At a cellular level, magnesium is involved in carrying out hundreds of different processes simultaneously. It helps us think, it helps us move, it helps us walk, it helps us our motor skills, it helps our optical nerves, it helps us with our sensory coming in. In fact, without magnesium, our body would completely shut down. Magnesium isn't just good for our physical health, it's essential. It is essential for our well-being as well. Your stress levels, mood, and sleep quality all may be likely dependent on your levels of magnesium. Let's look at that. For an example, magnesium helps regulate your stress systems. Is one of the reasons why people with low magnesium often report experience of heightened stress. It also increases levels of GABA, your neurochemical that encourages sleep and relaxation. Studies conducted with supplement of magnesium show a positive correlation with improved sleep, reduced stress, and greater calmness. So I want us to look at the three different types because it matters. It's very, very important. So while MG, magnesium glycitrate, MG, that's kind of like your general one. If you're starting this and you want to talk to your doctor about it, this is where I would say start, because it's like in general. So magnesium glycitrate is an amino acid that is combined to make your body absorb your food easier. Like it facilitates the release of GABA, making magnesium even more ideal for your sleep and relaxation. So this is just an overall health to just, if your magnesium levels are low, this is just one of those worker bees in there. It has no specific need. But when we get to MC, magnesium citrate, it is considered to be one of the most highly bioavailable type of magnesiums, as it can pass through most of our gut health. So if you find yourself having a lot of gut issues, acid refluxes, magnesium citrate is very beneficial for digestive regulation. And then we have So this combination of magnesium and malic acid works to increase energy levels. So if you find yourself fatigued, tired, not being able to sleep, or even if you find yourself getting a good night's sleep, but you still find yourself burning out throughout the day, because think about it, we encounter so much in our day, especially when we're in the workplace with these microaggressions. It has been so much more abundant, and it's no longer covert, it's overt, it's in our face. They say what they want to say how they want to say it, and leave us there picking up the crumbs. So when we are encountering that, we get fatigued, we mentally get fatigued, we physically get fatigued. How do we help get through that without energy drinks, without coffee and caffeine? Magnesium malate is one of the best ways that you can help get that energy up, get your brain, so our bodies, I'm gonna backtrack, our bodies is made up of a chemical reaction and electric reaction. So in there, it's like this combustion that's going on inside, and it's actually stirring. So if we treat ourselves chemically, because that's what pharmaceutical is, when we're treating ourselves with medication, that there's nothing wrong with medication, we forget about the electric side of our body. What about this side? We rarely hear about the electricity, that energy that's flowing through our body. So is really good for just making sure you regulate yourself in a fatigued way. I want to move on then to talk about melatonin. Let's see. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing. Melatonin is a hormone derivative. If you are taking melatonin, I encourage you to seriously have a conversation with your doctor. Ask them, okay, how would this interfere with my hormone levels? How is this going to interfere with the chemistry makeup of my body? Most of those questions, your primary care physician may not be able to answer you right then and there. However, don't give up. They're going to probably give you a generic answer, or, well, let's try it out and see how it works. Well, I don't want to just try it out. Based on my lab work that you've seen, can you give me something very tangible that I can see why you would give me a melatonin, which is a hormone derivative, and not check my hormone levels to make sure that I'm in a space to even receive that, or I'm in a space that will not kind of throw me off. You have these conversations with your doctor. They'll back down. They'll back down and say, you know what, if it's okay if you don't have this information for me right now, let's just make another appointment and we can come back when you have all of that for me, and I'm okay. I've had clients come back to me and say that their doctor became very, very angry about questioning them and asking them, hey, you're giving me a hormone. What are my hormone levels like? Can you look at that and tell me what that looks like? And they can't, and they become angry, and it says, you know what? It's okay. How about I just make another appointment and we can have that conversation then to give you a chance to look at that information? Because then think about it. We're trying in the space, we know what we're working with. So remember, let's go back to the 5 states of truth. We have knowledge that in the health industry, we are treated at very despairing rates. We are overlooked. In fact, we are not even looked at all. They stereotype us all the time. We know this. So what does that mean? What does that mean? When I go in to talk to my doctor, I know that the chances of me not being seen is going to be very, very high. So me bucking up at them is not going to get me what I need to be my best self. Now, later on, I'm going to look for another doctor, and I'm going to keep looking for another doctor until I find one that fits my need. But in the meantime, I am going to work with you, with your doctor, work with them in a space to where you at least start to get your needs met. You start to get that blood panel done. You start to get the work done so that you can actually start advocating and looking at that for yourself. And there's nothing wrong for you saying, hey, I need you to break this down to me. You've given me this blood work. You told me, but you haven't broken it down to me. I know what it is, but what does it mean? You can ask them, what does it mean? What do I need to do with this? How do I make sure I maintain this? What am I doing to maintain this? You can ask those questions while on the side looking for a doctor that fits your need. I like to tell clients when they come in, it's like when you're coming to therapy, that first therapist may not be fit for you. I tell clients that come in, I may not be fit for you, and it is okay. It is more than okay. You have to do what's best for you because it's not about me. It's not about the doctor. It's about you as the patient. And you have to be willing, willing, willing. In fact, it is a dire need for you to advocate for yourself, for you to stand up for yourself. Because if you don't, you could slowly be killing your own self by staying silent. Because those cortisol levels in there is like small poison. It shortens our life. Okay. So I want you guys to look at one of the tools, and Brittany talked about it in the last one, is name it to tame it. This is so important for us to regulate in our brain. And she's going to break down what that looks like. Our emotional vocabulary is going to be very, very big for us. And I'm going to play a video for you guys to help you, to help break down the meaning and understanding on a deeper level.
When we don't know what we're feeling, it leaves us helpless to act. When we do identify and express our emotions in writing or speech, it gives us the ability to slow things down, develop some insight, and then choose a course of action that lines up with our values, the kind of person that we want to be. If, on the other hand, we act impulsively to suppress or react to our emotions, then our life begins to feel out of control. Now, let's talk about how this works in the brain. So to speak very simply of the brain, your brain has a rational thinking part. To simplify this, we call this the upstairs brain. And this upstairs brain can think through problems and can plan and can make good choices. And then your brain has a more emotionally reactive part. So this is the feeling part, the downstairs brain. So this is the limbic system, or the survival part of our brain. This is where the fight, flight, freeze response happens. And this is the impulsive, emotional part of our brain. Now, both of these parts are good, but when our brain is stuck in the downstairs brain, it can be hard to think clearly, and we're often more reactive. But when we give our name to our emotions, it's like we're connecting those two parts of the brain together so that they can work together to solve problems. So in life, this looks like using I feel statements. And
Okay, so one of the things that is going to be very important for us to understand is we have to learn to separate I feel from I am. Okay, when we do I am, it stops us. It makes it feel it's a part of what it becomes a part of who we are. But when we do I feel, it's something that we're experiencing, and it gives us a greater sense of control. So let's see what that looks like broken down. So name it to tame it. I feel followed by an emotion word. Okay. I feel confused. I feel hurt. I feel joyful. When we do that, like she explained earlier, it connects the two hemispheres for us to process it. And even if you don't know what it is, if you have no clue of how you're feeling, start throwing things out there. I feel discombobulated. I feel angry. I feel annoyed. I feel confused. Think about your brain is going to start firing off. Your dendrites, your synapses, they're going to start firing off. And they're going to let you know if what you're feeling is what is going on. It'll say, nah, it's not. I feel joyful. I feel hurt. Okay, you feel hurt. And your brain it'll start firing it off. It's almost like you getting closer and closer. So we have to increase, in order for this to happen, we have to increase our emotional vocabulary. It is imperative that we do that. And in there's this emotional will chart. And if you would like this, you can look this up online. It's an emotional will chart. You can Google it. And it is a whole list of emotional vocabulary words that we can go over. I have my clients, and I have it up on my wall. I have my clients check in every time they walk in here so that we have a basis of what they look like. Because if they can name it, then they're going to be able to tame it. So when they're outside, I have them, okay, what are we feeling like today? What does that look like? And they'll sit there and they'll look at the emotional will, or they'll say, I feel angry. And I said, okay, well, what does that, you know what it is, but what does that mean? What does that anger mean? And I was like, I don't know. Okay, so let's go in a little deeper. And it's like, wait a minute. I don't think it's anger. I think it's disappointment. I said, okay, well, what does that disappointment? You know what it is, but what does that mean? I'm disappointed in me not sticking up for myself. I'm disappointed in me feeling like I don't have a voice. And we work through that. But when you name it and tame it, there's a release. There's not just a mental release, there's a physical release. And we have to be so very, very important with our language to ourselves. We have to make sure that when we tell ourselves something, we have to make sure we separate it. Being angry is not who we are, it's what we're experiencing. Being frustrated is not who we are, it's what we're experiencing it. If I'm saying I'm angry, no, that's not who you are. You are not an angry person. We have to learn to shield that from us. We have to learn not to take on those labels, because then that will start the cognitive dissonance. And cognitive dissonance is, it makes you out of alignment. So being able to increase our emotional vocabulary is going to be crucial to our healing, because when we name it, we tame it. Next up is understanding neurofeedback. And this is where my practice comes into play, and it is so huge, is neurofeedback and HRV. So first, let's go with heart rate variability and what that means. Heart rate variability, it's, okay, so this is what, it counts the coherence between the heartbeat. So if you have a heartbeat, boom, 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 what is actually in between that? Right here. And I got into heart rate variability training and brought that into practice is I went to see Dr. Bessel in San Jose, and he talked about how it can help emotionally regulate our nervous system. So we have our sympathetic nervous system and our parasympathetic nervous system. And when we're in a fight or flight state of mind, or we're in a constant state of frustration, or we're feeling like we're just unregulated, a low heart rate variability leads us to more imbalance. So when we are in coherence, this part right here, that gives us a greater sense of control to be able to break down what we're feeling. Because first we're going to name it to tame it, right? We're going to name it to tame it. But guess what? We can name it and tame it all we want, but if we don't know what's going on deep down inside within our physiological space, because our physiological space affects our mental space, and our mental space affects our physiological space. They're one and the same. We have to address both of them. Okay. So heart rate variability, a lot of times, I hook them up to a sensor, as you can see here. That's me in the field going out to the community and hooking them up. And most of the time, Our people do not want to do it because they think, oh, you're going to shock my brain. I'm like, I promise you. And once I get one brave person to actually sit and do, and in 10 minutes, I can tell a person whether they're in coherence or out of coherence. And they there was, give you an example. I was at a health event and I hooked up a lady and her heart rate variability was very, very weak. It was all over the place. And I'm asking her, and I said, hey, what stresses are you experiencing? Is there anything going on? And she's like, no, I'm good. I'm perfectly fine. Life is good. And I'm like, okay. I said, you're saying life is good, but what I'm seeing on the screen is there's a lot of stress going on. You're out of coherence. And I broke down coherence. I said, so look, if we look at your brain waves versus your heart, it's very rigid. And she looked and she broke down and she says, my husband is in cancer. My son lost his job. He's a writer and they're on a strike. And it was very, very difficult. And she's like, I was trying to hide it. And I said, let's breathe. As we breathe through her releasing it, she saw her heart rate variability start to come into sync. And seeing it before her eyes, it clicked. We named it and she tamed it right in front of her. So that was very, very big. Heart rate variability is really, really big. And it's an up and coming practice. It has so many benefits to it. High heart rate variability is a greater sense of well-being, better physical performance, relaxation, enhanced cognitive performance, and lower risk of high blood pressure and other health disparities. So let's look at neurofeedback. Neurofeedback is where I hook you up these sensors up to your scalp and I read your beta waves. So as we're in session and we're talking about something difficulty, you get biofeedback right then and there on how are you responding to that? What is your body doing? What is your brain doing? And it shows me in different aspects of, here we are. What's low? What's abnormally high? What's low? What is not functioning? As you can see from this, let's look at abnormally high is in the red zone, and then too low is under functioning. It's not coming on line at all. What we want to see is more green and bluish space in our beta waves, in our delta waves, in our alpha waves. All of this matter. When you are looking at it, you're looking at the brain and you understand, oh, wow, your amygdala and your hippocampus, which is our emotional parts of our brain, is underperforming. No wonder why you're not regulated. Okay, what skills or what interventions do we need to get in place to help strengthen those, to stop our amygdala from fight or flight, so where we can learn to tame it more. And so we do practices of the neurofeedback to help regulate just as much as HRV, but this gives us a greater, deeper insight on what those brain waves look like. I want to play this video. Okay, I have a backup. And this is going to be help tie everything together.
I'm not sure if you're showing the video, but no one is seeing it or hearing it.
Oh, okay. Hold on. I am showing the video. Is it not playing?
No one was able to hear it or see it.
Okay, hold on. Let's see. Let me go back. Okay. All right. Are you able to see it now?
I'm just seeing you right now.
Okay. Come on. This is the best part. And this I need to be seen. So let's go back there. Let's go to share screen. Here we go. Can you guys see the screen now?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay.
A mind-body connect. As early as 1870, science has acknowledged a mind-body connect. As early as 1872, the Orient has had the knowledge of this important connect for thousands of years and has succeeded in developing some powerful techniques to help modulate the mind through the body and vice versa. The human body is a miracle in action. The human nervous system is made of more than 100 billion nerve cells. The nervous system relays information from the brain to the body and back. One of the most important command central for bidirectional communication between the brain and body is the vagus nerve. A nerve probably 99% of the population never heard of nor have a clue of its location. So what is the vagus nerve? Vega in Latin means to wander. This nerve wanders around the body, impacting major organs. This being the longest cranial nerve, it controls all involuntary body processes such as breathing, speech, swallowing, heartbeat, blood pressure, hearing, taste, circulation, digestion, and gut health. It also controls bladder movement, orgasms, and fertility. A healthy vagus nerve allows us to access the parts of the brain responsible for creativity, higher cognition, and complex decision making. In the absence of a healthy vagus nerve, we only end up having access to parts of our brain that control primal instincts like fear and fight or flight response. Hence, a healthy vagus nerve is essential for leadership and decision making. The functioning of the vagus nerve can be impaired by stress, anxiety, poor lifestyle, smoking, drinking alcohol and overworking, lack of exercise, proper nutrition and sleep. When the vagus nerve is not able to perform to the best of its ability, the body and mind become susceptible to a range of diseases like depression, anxiety, obesity, cardiovascular disorders, hypertension, diabetes, digestive disorders, chronic inflammation, kidney malfunction, infertility, and even Parkinson's. Doctors have started stimulating the vagus nerve with electric impulses from a device that increases its activity to help with diseases like depression. However, there are natural ways to stimulate the vagus nerve as well, such as breathing, pranayama, and meditation, exercise, yoga, omega-3 and probiotic rich diet, singing and chanting, splashing cold water, laughing, hugging, massages. One of the most effective ways of vagus nerve stimulation is through breath. A powerful breathing technique that has positively impacted millions of people around the world is the Sudarshan Kriya Yoga, taught by the Art of Living Foundation. When one undergoes Sudarshan Kriya Yoga, their breathing and heart rate slows down. The vagus nerve then gathers a signal from multiple organs from the body, notes that things must be calm and restful. It then passes on this message to the brain, which 9 times out of 10 will listen and then allow us to relax, rest, and digest. Regular practice of Sudarshan Kriya activates the vagus nerve and has shown to have relieved depression in over 67% of a study's participants, decreased the release of the stress hormone cortisol by 56%, and reduced anxiety in 71% of people. It improves deep sleep and hormones that contribute to well-being. Due to the activation of the vagus nerve, one experiences tremendous benefits after Sudarshan Kriya Yoga, like stress resilience, improved immunity, happiness, creativity, stronger relationships, and ability to handle situations. The vagus nerve remains one of the most well kept secrets of the human body. Love and empathy, sense of connectedness, intuition, and mental and physical well being all become integral parts of life when you keep the vagus nerve nurtured and activated.
All right. So hold on, I'm going to stop sharing. Did you guys understand that the vagus nerve is a connection through our entire body? It connects the mind, the heart, and the gut that runs our entire system. And it is very imperative that when we do Tai Chi, think about it. Tai Chi is a movement that causes us to do slow, still movements. In a fast-paced world, how do we keep ourselves rested and digested? How do we not allow ourselves to be in this rat race all the time? Because the world's not going to stop for us. It's going to keep going. How do we self-regulate? Oppression is here. We still have a long fight ahead of us. So how do we self-regulate? Tai Chi, yoga, Pilates, all of those different things we can do for ourselves to help regulate us, so that when we are fighting out there, we don't, how we talked about the dropping into the deficit. If we are functioning at our best optimum health, and when we encounter oppression, when we encounter a cop being pulled over, when we encounter the stress of our sons going out there, when we encounter dealing with the schools and the disparity that we have, when we encounter that, how are we going into that environment? Are we going into that environment our strongest selves, or are we going in a weak state? So this is how we are able to start healing. Remember, healing isn't a one-stop shop. There's no ground zero. It's an ongoing process. So I want to open up for any questions. Do anyone have any questions? And I'm gonna go to the Q&A, or you can just put it in the chat. First, have anybody ever heard of the vagus nerve before? Put a thumbs up if you've heard of the vagus nerve in the chat, or put a thumbs down if you haven't heard about the vagus nerve.
I feel like I heard briefly about it before.
Okay, what'd you think about the video? Did the video give you a little bit more insight on all of the intricacies of the vagus nerve?
Yes, it did. It actually, like, I didn't realize or understand the whole presentation. I didn't realize like our health, like our things we eat, like plays that much of a big role into the mental health. So that's like very something to like think of for like myself, and for like once I get into the counseling field, like future clients that I would see. So that was very informative for me to think about.
Nice. So, Miss Williams, is there a particular brand of minerals or vitamins? So I had to be very careful with that, because in California, I can recommend it, recommend particular brands that I prefer, because as a nutritionist, California recognized me as a certified nutritionist. But then in some other states, is very iffy. So one of the things that I had to do before I come on is, because of the other states that does not recognize my certification as a registered nurse or dietitian, I am not allowed to recommend any specific ones. But I will say, definitely look into vitamin D3 with a mixture of K2 compound. So vitamin D with a mixture of K2 compound and then magnesium. And then again, magnesium glycosylate is across the board is one of the ones you want to start with. And then as we break it down. So I apologize for that. I'm so sorry. I wish I could, because I do have my favorites. If you want to contact me afterwards, I can answer that question for you. Oh, you guys can follow me on Instagram at awakened_consulting. On Instagram, DM me, send me those messages, and I will be able to answer them, because then there's no legalities with using that platform. It kind of is here. Okay. Email me, awakenconsulting@gmail.com, or there you go. So there's my email. Email me questions on specific brands. And I personally take drops, me and my daughter. So it is something that I have put into my daughter's life as well. And she is a triathlete and a beast in volleyball is her main, and she's a libero. And a libero never comes out of the game. And she is playing club and constantly. And I give her this supplement called it's called Awaken, and it's a mixture, and she'll run off, I'll drop it in her mouth, go in, and you would see her energy just spike back up, but everything's natural. And it took her a while to get there, because again, when we go the natural route, it's not something that happens overnight. We have to keep that in mind. We are working with how our body responds to things and how our body wants, rather than the generic psychopharmacology world where it's milligrams and everything's the same. When we go in a holistic route, our bodies slowly tell us, yes, this is working. No, this isn't working. Let's go with it. So keep that in mind when you do change over to taking more supplements for your body, especially during the winter time, because this is where we drop in that deficit level, and this is where things become more difficult. We have more brain fog. So definitely take vitamin D3 and magnesium. Any other questions? So, okay. All right. So I do know I'm over my time. Again, one last tip I would like to give you guys with the nutrition on the nutritional aspect is sometimes it's hard for us to change our eating habits, right? One of the tricks to trick our brain, when we're eating something or even when we're drinking something, we'll drink and then we'll keep it in our hand. What that signals in our brain, so our motor skill in our hand is signaling to our brain, oh, I want to drink more, because we have it in our hand. Or we pick up our hamburger and we take a bite of our hamburger, but we still holding it. That triggers in our brain, oh, I want to eat more. Or we have our fork and spoon in our hand as we eat. The trick is, after you take a bite, physically set your fork down, your meal down, your cup down, physically set it down and chew your food. What that's doing is now your body and your brain can only focus on what's going on. It does no longer have this signal, oh, I got a fork in my hand, I want more. So it weakens the hunger signal or the full signal in your brain saying, oh, we're full, but it can't, because you got the spoon in your hand. It's like, well, we can't be full. We still are ready to eat. So that's one of the tips and tricks that I teach my clients. And if you do this, and it's hard to do, it's not something that's going to be easy, because it's got to be a subconscious thing. Remember, it's got to be a conscious thing to put your fork or food down after every bite. You'll find that you eat less because of it, because now you're able to tune into your body to let you know, hey, I'm full. And you won't want to physically pick it back up. So that's one of the tips and tricks I teach my clients when we are working on nutrition, especially if we are a type 2 diabetic. Thank you guys for your time. If there's not any more other questions, I do know that there's another event that's going on. Thank you again. Have a great day.
Thank you. That was amazing.
Thank you.